Hello and welcome. My name is Prakalp Fadnis. I'm a principal consultant in the Global Mobility Services SWAT team, and I'm very happy to welcome you to this brand new session on Fiori at openSAP. This week, the topic of our focus is deploying the components required for implementing Fiori and some of the theory related to these activities. In the previous sessions, together with Elizabeth in week one, you went through the UX, the user interface, user experience paradigm at SAP, the architecture, and Bob Caswell took you through the RDS approach to knowledge sharing and implementation acceleration. All of these are exciting topics for Fiori enthusiasts. This week, unfortunately, much more mundane topic of deployment, but I hope that the exercises that we've designed will make it more exciting for you as we go along. The slide you're looking at should be familiar to you. Elizabeth took you through this in week one. Those of you who couldn't attend that session, please do take the time to familiarize yourself with this slide. It's a really good overview at a high level of what we're trying to achieve. So the key message in this slide is, let's say, a 1-minute architecture overview of how the Fiori applications are delivered and what various layers that we are traversing and which components that we are using. Starting at the very top, you see that there's a WebKit-enabled browser on either a desktop or a handheld device, it doesn't matter which then goes through a proxy. In some cases, there's a hard requirement for this proxy to be a SAP web dispatcher, but we'll get to that in a minute. And then reach the SAP Gateway, SAP NetWeaver Gateway 2.0, as it used to be called. Now it's called the SAP Front-End Server, where the services are registered. The front-end server, in turn, is responsible to call the correct auditor services which are deployed on the back end. And in some cases, the HANA Access engine is directly called from the web dispatcher. This is based on what kind of protocol is being used for that call, and there is a routing logic in the web dispatcher to handle that. That's the reason for the dependency. But we'll look into that a bit more as we go through the types of applications and so on. So going past all this dry and theoretical stuff, what does it get you? So in the top section of the slide, I've tried to do a sort of a guided procedure, trying to get you to see this is what we have, it gets you this and so on. So what does this theory get you? Well, it gets you this wonderful launchpad. Now again, Elizabeth will have taken you through the launchpad and shown you the various applications in that launchpad. But look at the transition. This dry architecture gives you such a wonderful UI. And in my opinion, this UI almost doesn't require any, there's no learning curve. It's a clean user interface. It provides the information that you need, and you can almost begin to be effective in this UI from the word go. So the question is, okay, that's great. I like the UI. I now know what the architecture is, or at least remember what the architecture is, how to get here, how to really get here, right? So let's take a few seconds. Before we go down to the next slide, let's take a few seconds to think about the composition of the apps itself. Now, you'll remember that I spoke about OData services in the architecture slides, and those of you who are inherently programmers, you will know you will not need any explanation for that. But for the wider audience, the OData service is what provides the data, and it's the meat on the bone, so to speak. And naturally, this service lives where the data lives, and that's in the backend system. It's deployed as an add-on. To our basis, the participants looking at this, or our colleagues who are looking at this, who are SAP basis colleagues, they will immediately know what to do with this. Each service is served with a UI component that matches it. So some of the UI components are standardized across services, and others are specific for the app or the scenario. And similar to the OData services add-ons, the UIs are also delivered as add-ons. And of course, you guessed right, these are delivered and deployed onto the front-end server. So the SRAs, or the OData service add-ons deployed on the back end, the UI add-ons deployed on the front-end server. And together, they shake hands, and once that happens, this is the picture that you're seeing on the screen, the launchpad populated with tiles, as they're called, with data in. So where and what do these add-ons look like in the backend? Where are they? How can you see them? What do you do? Because of the breadth that this course is going to appeal to, some of this stuff is very basic. Those of you who are SAP proficient may not have that much to take away from it. But for those who are not, this is the add-ons are in the backend system are visible when you access a certain menu structure. Let me go and show you that in a minute. But the backend components, the foundation components of it are available to you there to view, and also the components for the services themselves. Let me just jump out of this PowerPoint for a minute and go log in. Sorry, I'm already logged in. So now I hope what you're seeing is the SAP GUI where I'm already logged in. This is, by the way, a similar system to the one that you're going to be using. And there should be no visible difference for you. Everything should be exactly the same. You can click exactly where I'm clicking to go find this information. So all I did was click on the system button, the menu item here, scroll down to status, and that opens up a system status window. Click on the little magnifying glass. The proper term is component information, by the way. Click on the magnifying glass. That throws up another window, and here you see all the components. I'm marking the column there, their release level, the SP level, and some descriptive text about these components. So let's take one example here. What can I show you? This one right here, for example, SAP_GWFND, the SAP Gateway Foundation, self-explanatory. If we scroll down a little bit, let's see if we can find some of those SRAs, since we're talking about backend component deployment. Just a little bit more scrolling. Yeah, here we go. So there it is. So all these here, the SRA 001, 002, 003, and so on, these are all these OData services add-ons that have been deployed. And each of them has a descriptive text. So although the name of the component may not be so intuitive, you can see here 08 is, for example, approved travel request, just an example. Now, this is where you'll go and find this information in your system. Going back to my presentation, if I can find it here. So going back to my presentation and jumping one slide back, following the logic of the breadcrumbs or the guided procedure on top, in the beginning we had the architecture. That architecture gave you this as an end product, the launchpad and all the functionality within it. Now, to build this functionality, what we need is some of the basics, like these SRAs, and each of these backend components have a handshake with a UI element to them, like I said in an earlier slide. And let's go find these as well. Now, before we go there, you will see me do the same thing, right? So I didn't change any systems. It's still being called ERP down here. You'll see that the client is the same. That's because we're doing something called an embedded deployment. I'll come to that in a bit. But our test system has both the backend and the front-end components deployed in the same system. Okay, so let me find those. If I can, a little bit more scrolling here. There we are. So perhaps mark this over here like this. So here we have the UI components, right? UI for ERP central applications, the HANA Live content, and Smart Business, and so on. Okay, these two deployed together, sorry, not necessarily on the same system, but these two deployed together, shake hands, and give us what we need from our system to be able to use the Launchpad. Now, going back to the presentation, what I would like to highlight here, just for one moment, is that we have a set of foundational components. So these are universal, or rather, they are necessary for the gateway to support its function as a front-end server. And then there are some components which are generic. So if I take you quickly back to this status window here, I can show you that there was one which was called UI for ERP central applications, generic UI. And it's being used or reused. These UIs are being reused. Here, for example, let's have a look at one of the ones which are specific to the to the kind of module that one might be implementing. For example, the one I've highlighted now is called UIX 01 HCM. So this UI component, we're simplifying the whole thing, the deployment, the maintenance, and so on. So this one add-on contains UI for all the HCM scenarios. Same applies for the next one. It's called travel. All the travel scenarios are served by this one particular UI component. Okay. Now, where can you find these? Right? These components are downloaded for you. You can do it in multiple ways. But before we go to the actual place where you can go and find these components and download them, I want to talk about something called the Solution Manager and Software Update Manager, and essentially the toolkit that we are recommending or even insisting should be used for deployment purposes. The reason for this is because we are in a highly, not necessarily volatile, but a fast-moving area. Fiori is evolving. There are a lot of changes being made, and in that context, it is important to have a set of tools which ensure that you're doing the right thing at the right time, and this is where this toolkit comes into play. So the Software Update Manager, for example, facilitates NetWeaver-based application system upgrades, enhancement package updates, and installation of support packages, for example, in a single harmonized UI. And while the Software Update Manager is shipped as a part of a tool set, you can go and download this. It's independent of all the applications that we're talking about. However, it supports the deployment, upgrade, and maintenance, as I mentioned. You can get it from the Service Marketplace. In the next slide, I'm going to talk about the Service Marketplace for a bit. But also, the Maintenance Optimizer transaction in SAP Solution Manager is an important point to discuss here, because we are generating the XML stack list through this transaction. Though, again, those of you who are Basis colleagues, you will know this by heart, but I need to mention it for the wider audience. And the Maintenance Optimizer transaction is a central point of access for these maintenance activities. It supports, again, the installation of updates and upgrades, and can essentially completely manage the maintenance activities for the entire solution. There are some prerequisites to setting up the Maintenance Optimizer transaction. That's not the scope of our work over here. However, let it be suffice for you to know that this is our recommendation of how you will deploy Fiori. Okay, Maintenance Optimizer, centrally accessible from inside Solution Manager, and there's a very simple URL for you to access for more information on this. So all you need to do is go to service.sap.com/MOPZ. So Maintenance Optimizer, that's the short form or the transaction code for that. Okay, so while on the previous slide, I said I'm going to talk about the Service Marketplace. Now, the Service Marketplace is the one place which gathers all information related to SAP products, and it's essentially a one-stop shop. Here you go, assuming you have a user, of course. In the slide that you're looking at now, I've drawn a little marker, if you will, or a red box on the top right-hand corner. There is the information, to either log in or register, or even reset your password if you're coming in from the outside as a non-SAP employee. Now, why am I saying this now? It's because when I show you this, I'll already be logged in and you won't see that part here. So I just wanted to emphasize. And you need a user, even with Solution Manager, when you create this stack list and when you ask for the downloads, you need a authorized user with the rights, with the right permissions to do that. And usually this S user is not something you create yourself. It's connected to the licenses that your employer has or your company has, and so on. So make sure that's something that you have with you when and if you go down the path of implementing this. So let's jump out again of the presentation and find the service marketplace. Interestingly enough, it says welcome guest over here, so it hasn't logged me on. But let's see if my single sign-on works. Support portal, just an example. Let's go there, and okay, a few minutes, few seconds. Okay, excellent. My single sign-on worked. Here it says Prakalp Fadnis, and so on. Look at these breadcrumbs. I just wanted to show you a little bit of what it looks like in there. Software downloads, and then installation and upgrades. Let me just search for something real quick. Let's say star Fiori. Is that right? Yes. Star, enter, and oh, look. Number of hits. There are even a number of pages, 18 pages all in all. So yeah, that's just a quick demo of the service marketplace. Okay, remember you need a S user. You can't see these. Oh, what happened? Okay, let me try again. You can't see these files if you don't have the licenses or the relevant authorizations. In my case, being an employee, I can see a lot more than you probably will see. Okay. All the components are downloaded from here. Okay. Sorry, just one moment. Now, that's us back. Service Marketplace, yeah. And then that brings us to the end of this overview unit. So what we did was we went quickly through the architecture that Elizabeth covered with you in week 1. We saw the results of having implemented all these, the required components, what kind of components they were, front end, back end. We talked about where you can get these components, what you need to be able to download these components. And we also talked about the recommendations that SAP has, or even directives that SAP has for deploying these components, namely Update Manager and Solution Manager for a successful deployment. In the next unit, that's also me, by the way, we will cover the prerequisites, and we will look at SAP Notes, very important topic, and we will look at where to go. Again, I want to show you the background of where to go and where to find information, because that's almost more important than just giving you the information. So thank you for your attention, and see you next week.